The Darksaber is a weapon of great power and intrigue in the Star Wars universe. Forged by the first Mandalorian Jedi, 𝐒𝐿, it has been wielded by some of the most formidable warriors in the galaxy. But who is the rightful owner of the Darksaber? Many fans of The Mandalorian have a theory that the Darksaber may actually belong to none other than Luke Skywalker, the Last Jedi. This theory is based on several pieces of evidence and plot points from the show, as well as information from other Star Wars media. But what does Luke Skywalker himself have to say about the Darksaber? Is it truly a weapon of the dark side, or does it hold a deeper meaning for the Last Jedi? And if the Darksaber does belong to Luke, how did it end up in the hands of Moff Gideon and the remnants of the Galactic Empire? Join us as we uncover the truth behind the Darksaber and its connection to Luke Skywalker. Will we find that the weapon truly belongs to the Last Jedi, or is the theory nothing more than a pipe dream? Find out in this exciting exploration of the Darksaber and its place in the Star Wars galaxy. Starting us off, what does Luke Skywalker has to say about the Darksaber? Luke Skywalker was believed to have encountered many formidable foes during his career, but none more so than Moff Gideon and the Darksaber. The weapon is considered extremely powerful and capable of wreaking massive destruction. When a rebel asked Skywalker what he felt the Darksaber signified, he said that to others, it signifies the might of the dark side, but to him, it represents something entirely different. It serves as a reminder of the past and the lessons that must be learned to progress. It represents the differences that formerly afflicted the galaxy and the togetherness that must be sought if the Empire is to be defeated and peace restored. When asked if someone on the good side could wield the Darksaber, Skywalker said that nobody could turn towards the light regardless of their past or allegiance. He did, however, warn that the Darksaber is a dangerous weapon that demands great power and discipline to handle responsibility and should not be underestimated. Talking of the Darksaber, how is it passed down? Let's find out. The Mandalorian lore around Darksaber inheritance will be familiar to Harry Potter readers, as it's identical to how the Elder Wand is passed down. It's hardly surprising that a weapon has such power and significance in Mandalorian society, which values combat and warfare and regards a Mandalorian's armor and weaponry as extensions of themselves. Armor is so holy in Din Djarin's clan that Mandalorians are not even allowed to remove their helmet in front of another person. According to Star Wars Rebels, the Mandalorians' reverence to the Darksaber as a cultural emblem allows the person wielding it to unite the clans. When Sabine Wren acknowledges to her mother, Orsa Wren, that she did not defeat Darth Maul in battle, Orsa tells her, then you have no claim to it. The Darksaber can also be obtained through inheritance. The Darksaber was passed down through the 𝐉𝐻𝐿a dynasty for generations, being used by 𝐒𝐕𝐻𝐿a's successors until it eventually came up in the hands of 𝐿, a character who first featured in the anime series Star Wars: The Clone Wars. 𝐿 lost the Darksaber when he was killed in battle by Darth Maul, which indicates that Darth Maul was undoubtedly the new owner of the weapon. In Star Wars Rebels, Maul was killed in battle by Obi-Wan Kenobi, and while Maul wasn't wielding the Darksaber at the time, Obi-Wan was technically its legal owner after slaying its prior possessor. There is significant controversy here about the definition of defeat, whether it requires the Darksaber's owner just to be beaten to the point of helplessness, or whether they must die in battle. If the former is correct, Palpatine may have inherited the Darksaber rather than Obi-Wan, as he defeated Maul in battle and had him begging for mercy during the Clone Wars episode, The Lawless. In any case, the Darksaber finds up rightfully, if not literally, in the hands of Luke Skywalker via his father. Moving on, Luke Skywalker is the rightful heir to the Darksaber. If Obi-Wan Kenobi inherited the Darksaber after murdering Darth Vader at the end of Star Wars: A New Hope, then Darth Vader became its rightful owner after killing Obi-Wan. It would have remained his weapon until he died in Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, when it was passed down to his son, Luke Skywalker, using the same laws that allowed generations of 𝐒𝐕𝐻𝐿a's descendants to inherit it. Even if Palpatine had a proper claim to it when he defeated Maul in battle, Darth Vader would eventually claim it because Vader killed Palpatine by tossing him into the second Death Star reactor core. The Darksaber would therefore have belonged to Vader for a few brief moments before transferring to his son upon his death. The flaw in this argument is that there's still an unknown period of the Darksaber's history. For example, we need to find out how it came to be in Moff Gideon's possession. However, regardless of where the Darksaber wound up physically, everyone who has handled it since Darth Maul has done so illegitimately. Sabine Wren obtained the Darksaber in Star Wars Rebels not by defeating Maul in battle, but by stealing it from Maul's collection of weapons and memorabilia. As Sabine's mother pointed out, this meant she had no legitimate claim to it. It may be argued that Sabine won the Darksaber after duking it out with Gar Saxon, but Gar Saxon had no claim to it either. If the inheritance law is strictly applied, Sabine was never the true wielder of the Darksaber. As a result, Bo-Katan Kryze, to whom Sabine later gave the Darksaber, was not the true owner, nor was anybody who got it after Kryze, including Moff Gideon. The Darksaber is truly Luke Skywalker's as long as he lives. Following that, what Luke Skywalker owing the Darksaber means for The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian takes place 5 years after the events of Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. Thus, Luke Skywalker is traveling the galaxy throughout the events of the TV program, having defeated the Empire with the help of his allies. Because nothing is known about Luke Skywalker's life in the current Star Wars canon, a young Luke Skywalker could appear on The Mandalorian. If Luke is the rightful heir to the lightsaber, Moff Gideon may gain complete control by defeating Luke in a fight. Meanwhile, Moff Gideon is less of a menace when wielding the Darksaber than he would be otherwise because it doesn't belong to him and can never be connected to it. The link that a Jedi or Sith has with their lightsaber is critical. To return to the second interpretation of the Darksaber's inheritance law, which states that anybody can become its legitimate wielder as long as they get it via battle, Luke is not its owner. If that's the case, Din Djarin may defeat Moff Gideon in battle and take the Darksaber from him in The Mandalorian Season 2. This would make Din the rightful owner of the Darksaber and return it to the Mandalorians. With so much unknown about the Darksaber, watching how the Mandalorian sheds more light on the ancient weapon will be fascinating. Next up, why the Mandalorian struggles with the Darksaber, but Moff Gideon didn't. Din Djarin struggles to wield the Darksaber in the Book of Boba Fett Episode 5, but it needs to be clarified why his adversary Moff Gideon doesn't. The Mandalorian Season 2. The Darksaber, the ancestral weapon of Mandalore's ruler, was crafted by an ancient Mandalorian Jedi named 𝐉𝐻𝐿. Whoever wields the Darksaber is considered the legitimate ruler of Mandalore, and this position has usually been acquired through conflict. This, however, does not account for the disparities between the blade's two most notable wielders. When the Empire launched a crushing attack on Mandalore, the Mandalorians lost the Darksaber. Still, it reappeared years later in possession of Moff Gideon, head of one Imperial remnant that appears to have been based near Tatooine. Din Djarin unwittingly claimed the Darksaber in The Mandalorian Season 2 when he defeated Moff Gideon in a fight, oblivious to the gravity of his deeds. However, as competent as the Mandalorian is with other weapons, he isn't with the Darksaber. The ancient weapon becomes heavier as he uses it. During one encounter, he unintentionally clipped his leg while struggling to hold it. This, however, begs the question of why Moff Gideon did not experience similar difficulties. To comprehend this, it is vital first to understand why the Darksaber becomes heavier during a fight. In the canon book Secrets of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker noted that utilizing a lightsaber is more like channeling a power current than swinging a sword. This is why the best lightsaber users are Force sensitives. When they're attuned to the Force, their thoughts and actions merge into a single stream of energy that is then guided via the Kyber crystal and into the lightsaber's blade. Moff Gideon was ruthlessly concentrated on this mission, completely dedicated to the reestablishment of the Empire with no doubt in his mind. He could easily unite with the blade. Finally, more specifics on the struggle of the Darksaber. Din Djarin's mind, on the other hand, is disordered and undisciplined, split between competing loyalties and identities, unsure of his place in the galaxy or the cause for which he should fight. Ironically, the more Din Djarin uses the Darksaber, the worse those troubles will develop because he understands the Mandalorian king should use this weapon, and he needs to be up to the role. It's worth noting, though, that even Moff Gideon may have felt a sensation of weight when wielding the Darksaber. He gripped it in a double-handed grasp as if holding something rather heavy. Additionally, he used the Darksaber almost like a sledgehammer, as if trying to batter his opponent into submission beneath its weight. He'd certainly never been educated in its use. Moff Gideon modeled himself after Darth Vader, but he needed to gain the Dark Lord of the Sith's knowledge. He lacked even fundamental sequence knowledge, let alone knowledge of specific lightsaber forms, and could not employ the Darksaber defensively. Din Djarin fortunately has powerful and skillful companions. He knows how to find his former ward Grogu, as demonstrated in the Book of Boba Fett Episode 5, which means he knows where Luke Skywalker is. Luke may give Din Djarin basic Darksaber training, similar to how Ezra trained Sabine Wren in Star Wars Rebels. The narrative of the Darksaber will undoubtedly be continued in the Book of Boba Fett in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Well, that marks the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you in the next video.